Thanks for downloading this episode of the Resilient Advisor Podcast. My name is Jay Coulter. In my experience, when a financial services professional hears the words networking, they think of boring Chamber of Commerce meetings, endless Rotary meetings, and other potentially painful experiences. My guest today is Frank Agin, who is an expert at the art of professional networking. He is the president of AM Spirit Business Connections and host of the Networking RX podcast, and he's here to share with you his experiences. Frank, thanks for coming on board.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jay. This is great.
All right, this is a very popular topic in my networks. Let's talk about in interacting with financial advisors. Based on your experience, what do you see as a networking best practice that's, well, not really common practice?
You know, and this is not limited to financial advisors. I see attorneys doing this. I used to be an attorney. And I've practiced as an attorney and a CPA. I see intelligent professionals doing this, and financial advisors are I would consider intelligent professionals. And what they tend to do, they're all smart people. They tend to jump into conversations with their clients and prospects and just right away get into the knowledge. Right away start talking about all the things they know, and they get in too deep and too quick, and they don't engage the clients relative to what I'll call small talk. And I know people will roll their eyes at the whole notion of small talk, but the reality is that nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And so what I would advise your listeners, people tuned into your podcast, financial advisors, is take the time to get to know your clients. Take the time to, not every call has to be a call that has anything to do with business. It might be, hey, I heard your son was, playing in the state championship football game, or your daughter's graduating, or whatever, just to engage and let your clients know in a subtle way. Calling and saying I really care about you kind of falls flat, but just making a call and I see your mother passed away, or whatever it might be, but engage in that small talk and refrain from just feeling like you've got to jump in and show how smart you are. In reality, the best financial advisors out there, I'm willing to bet, I don't have a study on this, but I'm willing to bet the best financial advisors out there are not the smartest ones. They're the ones who engage in this kind of small talk, this little personal banter with their clients. I know for a fact that's true amongst physicians. The physicians that end up getting sued the least are the ones with the best bedside manner, the best rapport with their patients. It's not the smart ones. It's the ones that have the best rapport. So I assume it applies really to any profession.
In my consulting practice, Frank, we coach financial advisors that when they're dealing with the top clients to make sure they have 2 social touch points for every business touch point. So that falls right in line with what you're saying. People really want to know you and trust you before they're going to do business, or more importantly, refer people to you. And I think the same context really presents a problem for the uninitiated as they transition to social media and using the internet to grow their professional networks. What are you seeing?
When we start talking about the internet and we start talking about social media, what I have to remind people is that it's really nothing more than a tool, and it just makes communication easier. It doesn't negate the notion that we need to get people to know us and like us and trust us. And that has, that's been with the human race since the beginning of time. Just that sense of, hey, I trust this person, I like this person. Those things need to be there. I mean, if you stop and think about it, before we had phones, we hung out on our front porch and we talked to our neighbor, and we had to have a good feeling about the people we were interacting with. And then once phones came along, we were able to talk with people on the other side of town, but we still had to have that same feeling, that same kind of guttural, hey, I like this person. I know I can trust this person. And the internet is just kind of an extension of the phone, if you will, and it allows us to really communicate with people 24/7, 365 days a year, worldwide. But at the end of the day, you still have to have that good feeling about the people you do business with. And nobody's going to hand over a $500,000 401k rollover, on a text message or just an email or some sort of social media post. That people have to know, like, and trust the people that they're working with. It's really, it all comes down to the human element. It just comes down to us having relationships with each other.
Frank, I call it the KLT principle, know, like, and trust. And what I have found with my experiences on social media is that when marketers reach out, they are going right for the kill. They want to connect, and then they're pitching. They want to connect, and then they're pitching, as opposed to connecting, trying to add value over a series of interactions, let themselves get known inside my network, give me an opportunity to like them, and then trust them as a professional, and then ask. And to me, that's the biggest problem with social media, especially as it relates to financial advisors who dislike social media, like myself, trying to first start leveraging these platforms, and they're expecting instant results, and it just doesn't happen.
Years ago, I co-wrote a book with a gentleman by the name of Lewis Howes, and the name of the book was Linked Working. And the whole gist of the book, it was a strategy book. It is a strategy book on using LinkedIn, and the theme we had throughout the book was this: you operate on social media, on LinkedIn, whatever, Instagram. You operate on those platforms the same way you would operate in the real world. In the real world, you wouldn't walk into a room and say, hey, do business with me. So don't do it on social media, or don't expect that it's going to work if you do it on social media, to your point.
Yep, that's right. So what are a couple ways, based on your experience, that you would advise a financial advisor, if you were coaching them, to get effectively networked?
That's a great question. It's a great question, and it's really kind of simple. Two of the things I see as being the most effective for people in professional services are, one, volunteering. Getting up out of your chair, and I know that probably there's moans and groans as I say that, getting up out of your chair and becoming involved within your community. However you define your community. I know some financial services people, I'm in Columbus, Ohio, they're very involved throughout the whole city. Some it's maybe in their own little suburb. But whenever you get out there and you volunteer your time, and I encourage people to volunteer their time on things they're passionate about, things that they're going to be engaged in. It's not an opportunity to go pitch yourself. It's just an opportunity to give back. But what I tell people is that when you volunteer your time, one, you're demonstrating that you're caring, that you're giving back to the community, and you're doing that in front of people who are interested in that same cause. And so, back to the know, like, and trust. They can't help but know, like, and trust you. But the other unique thing about volunteering is you tend to do it with other people who have come out of their own little corner of the community to do it. And it's just a great way to kind of mix yourself up. The second thing I encourage financial advisors to do is do a lot of what I call content marketing. Share knowledge, share your expertise, and this creates know, like, and trust in a passive way. And I get the flyers in the mail, being invited to steak dinners, to get the financial overview. That's fine. I don't think it needs to be that sophisticated. I think it can be as simple as getting a free room at the library and just offering advice. Again, just kind of getting out in the community and talking with people. And you never know who you're going to run into. Somebody who rolls into that might be there because they're just looking to start a 401k, but have parents that have, start a Roth IRA, but they have parents that have 401k monies from their prior employers. So you never know. But it's just a kind of a great way to build for a financial advisor to build their brand kind of show their expertise, and get out there and really meet some people.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and has been a lot of buzz around the content marketing concept. And there's some challenges for financial advisors. If they work for a broker-dealer, they are sometimes limited in what they can share. What we're learning about the algorithms on social media in particular is that if you're sharing the same piece of content that somebody else is, it's not getting in anybody's feeds. The algorithms do not like that. In my experience, the most effective content marketing strategy is the original content that you produce that is authentic, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Have you had experience with your clients building out their own content marketing strategies and incorporating it with their professional networking?
Yeah, certainly. I see a lot of people doing it. A lot of marketing people are doing it. I know a woman who's an attorney, and she does it. She's got a podcast. There's video with it as well, just answering questions. She has a lot of fun with it. But again, it's just a way that people can kind of get comfortable with you. Whatever you're doing, podcasting, I think, is very, very effective. And I get financial advisors have limitations if they're working with big firms. But to the extent you can work within those limitations and kind of get your brand out there and share what you know and show that you're down to earth and you can poke fun at yourself, your industry, or whatever, that just warms people up to you.
Well, Frank, think about this. You and I would not have connected if I did not feel that, or you would not have connected with me if I did not have the value proposition of a podcast that reaches, 4,000 to 8,000 financial advisors. So it creates a door-opening strategy as well as grows your professional network in a genuine way. So I'm with you. I think those types of tools, whether it's blogging, podcasting, vlogs are becoming popular, are an integral part to a networking strategy.
Yeah, it's a great way to. There's no shortage of learning out there. There's no shortage of, picking up information, certainly financial services, but it's all, and people are taking advantage of it, and rightly so. And so to the extent a financial advisor can kind of tap into that, however they choose to do it, they ought to.
The last thing I think our audience would greatly benefit learning from you is how to deal with networking anxiety. Everybody's experienced, some people more than others. How do you coach folks who are having anxiety about going to networking events?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm glad we're touching on it, because when I get out and do professional programs on networking, I always leave time at the end for a Q&A, and this question comes up consistently. And that people can identify the events, but they don't go into the event because they're anxious about the situation. And what I tell people is that anxiety is just human nature. We as humans started our existence in tribes of 100 to 150 people, and really didn't have a lot of interaction with people outside. And when we did, warning signs went off in our minds. Hey, there's a threat here. So this whole going into a room of strangers and feeling nervous about it that anxiety is perfectly natural. Everybody has it. Everybody, including me. I'm supposed to be Mr. Network, and whenever I walk into an event, I can feel my blood pressure raise. It's totally natural. What I encourage people to do is just jump in. If you have the apprehension, know that everybody else has the apprehension as well, and the cousin to this concern has to do with individuals worried about getting into small talk. How do I have small talk conversation? And what I coach people on with respect to small talk is simply this: it's not about you having interesting things to say. It's about you getting the other person telling you interesting things. So you need to be ready with questions, and just having questions that you can ask people. In Columbus, Ohio, I always tell people it's easy because so many people have moved here from outside of Columbus, and so to get at where they're from. And it's always a quick conversation of, oh, you're not from here. Well, what brought you here? And then they tell that story, and then that can go off into any number of different directions. Do they have kids? Oh, you're from Green Bay. Are you a big Packers fan? Whatever it might be, it can go off in lots of different directions. But the bulk of it is them talking, and you don't really have to say a whole lot. And the thing to remember is that to the extent that they're talking, they're getting the sense that you care about them. And you should. You should genuinely be interested in them. And they're going to turn the tables on you. And they're going to want to find out things about you. Now, mind you, financial services might not come up in that conversation, but you've developed a rapport and a relationship that you can go grab a cup of coffee another time or see them at another event. And in time, because they've warmed up to you, all those doors will open in time. Referrals, business with them, it all opens up in time. You just need to be patient with it.
All right, Frank, so how could listeners learn a little bit more about you and your work?
Yeah, they could certainly contact me. I'm on LinkedIn, Frank Agin, last name spelled Agin. I'm certainly welcome to talk to people. I have a website, frankagin.com, and there's my email's on there. It's an easy way to get me, or Frank Agin at Amspirit, AMSPIRIT.com. And what our organization does is we bring together entrepreneurs, sales reps, and professionals into a weekly meeting setting where they learn about each other and exchange referrals. Certainly one aspect of what I do, and I also get out and do a fair amount of professional speaking on topics related to professional networking and business relationships.
Excellent. Frank, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.